Good evening and welcome to Sunday Live. My name is Emma and I am your host this evening. Tonight we're going to continue our have this conversation back in January, but we were thwarted by snow. So we get to do it. If you've never joined us before on Sunday Live or for any of this series, what we do is in this particular series, we're taking a story, an event, a character from the Bible, and we are unboxing it. So we're looking at the story. We're seeing what lessons are there from this story, and then how is it relevant for us today? How can it help us today in 2026? And then Sunday Live is a place where we share our thoughts, our opinions, our life experiences with you. We're not experts. We definitely don't profess to be experts. We're just ordinary people sharing, as I said, our thoughts and our opinions with you who are listening. So if you'd like to get involved in our conversation, you can do that by texting us with the number on your screen now, 07624 566 261, or you can write something in the YouTube chat if you have access to that. And it could be a question or simply a thought you want to throw into our conversation. Whatever you want to put in there is up to you, and the team will pass it to me. So tonight, joining me finally at attempt number 2 at the table is Sam. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having me.
It's great. I'm so glad we actually get to do this as well.
And I've got to say as well, kudos on using the word thwarted. I think that's a great word to use. We were thwarted, but we are resilient and we're back.
Absolutely. In fact, as a side note, I sent an email this week and I used the word prudent.
Did you?
Wow. I was really quite impressed myself. I sound highly educated, don't I?
You do.
It's not true, but I sound it. Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, good evening, everybody. Nice to imagine that you're there watching, and lovely to be here. So my name's Sam, and Emma and I actually used to work together years ago. Was it 10, 15 years ago? I can't remember.
I've been married 12, so it must be something like 15 odd years ago.
Oh my goodness, that makes me feel really old. But
even though you're like a year, 2 years older than me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're both still incredibly young.
Absolutely.
But actually, we've walked a little bit of life together in a shared ministry, and now I'm a teacher, and it's a great joy to do that, a job that I absolutely love. Just moved back to the Isle of Man. My wife Sarah and I and our 4 children moved back a year and a half ago. We felt called back to the island. It's always been a very spiritual home for us. And so much of our journey with God, and certainly about what we're going to talk about tonight, is so interwoven in the very land here on the Isle of Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's special to be here, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so who are we unboxing today? Who do you want to talk about?
Okay, today we're going to talk about, drumroll please, we're going to be talking about Jonah, one of the Old Testament minor prophets.
Yes.
Minor prophet, major story.
Yes.
Is the way I see it.
Yeah, so Old Testament, so we are in way before Jesus, so the first half of the Bible, if you like. So before Jesus is born, before any of that happens, we're actually really far ahead of all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So we're in Old Testament, and minor prophet, not because he was insignificant, but because his book is short.
Very short.
That's the only reason why we have minor and major prophets, is the length of their book, as opposed to their story
not
or anything.
Important
Important or anything like that. So a minor prophet. Okay, so for people who have never even heard of Jonah, have no idea who you're talking about, could you give us like an overview of the story so everyone's on a little bit of the same page?
Absolutely. If you've got any background in church, you may well have heard the story of Jonah, but it is a really obscure story that many people may not know. So Jonah was a prophet, and so by that I mean God communed with him, God spoke to him and through him, and one day God gave him a challenge that he was to go to a notorious city called Nineveh. Nineveh was one of those places with a reputation. We can probably all think of a modern day example, the kind of city you wouldn't want to go to, maybe because you felt unsafe there or threatened by the way that people lived there. So Jonah had been given this directive by God to go there. But of course, he didn't do what God asked. You're meant to do as God asks, but actually he decided that it was too frightening, it was too overwhelming for him, and that human side of him overtook.
Yeah.
And so what he did instead was run away, and he went and he got on a boat, and he started heading off on a journey, a very kind of geographical escape from God, forgetting, of course, that this is the God of the universe that we're talking about. And a big storm whips up when he's on the boat, and very, very soon Jonah realizes that actually that storm is in place because he's disobeying God. And the sailors on the boat are terrified, they're going to die. And Jonah says to them, listen, hands up, it's me, I'm the problem. It's me, throw me overboard. And of course they do, chuck him over, and Jonah falls into the waves. I'm assuming in that moment he thinks he's going to die.
I would have thought so.
That's my assumption.
Yes, I would have thought so.
He thinks he's going to die and that God's punishing him and God's going to have his way no matter what.
Yeah.
But actually God shows a real act of mercy here.
Which is kind of worse for Jonah.
It's worse for
Really?
Jonah because he gets swallowed by a massive fish. We talk about a whale, but actually it talks more about this massive fish that swallows Jonah, and it talks about how Jonah is actually inside the fish, alive, conscious, and present to what's going on for 3 days, which then becomes a foretaste of the 3 days when Jesus dies and is neither here or there. Anyway, so Jonah has this big, long prayer time with God in the fish, and eventually the fish burps him out, and Jonah says, okay, thank you, you've saved me, I'm going to do what you've asked. And off he goes to Nineveh. So you would think this is a happy ending, which in some ways it is, because he goes into Nineveh and he shares the message of God. And he says, look, God wants you to turn away from the lives you're living, change the way that you're living, and God wants to be in right relationship with you. And they do.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Apart from it really winds Jonah up.
Yes.
And he gets really mad about it. And he has this big tantrum. And he goes outside the city and he sits there and he's demanding that God destroys the city and wipes the people out, and he's grumbling. And he shelters under this vine, and God sends a worm to chew the vine, and he gets all sunburnt. And it's essentially a story of this cantankerous, grumpy...
Great word.
Thank you. This really grumpy man who he's got an idea of what should be, but his idea of what should be is not the same as God's. And that's how it ends.
Excellent. Wonderful storytelling.
Thank you.
You should be a teacher.
Wow. Maybe I will.
Maybe. Career change.
Yeah.
Okay, so what lessons, if you could pick out a few lessons from this, what are some of those lessons you think are for us today? And then maybe we'll take them one by one and we'll just talk about each of those lessons, see what we can learn.
Okay, so there is a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
I think the most obvious one to begin with is the knowledge that once you have known God, so I don't hold this standard to people who don't know God, but once you've known God and you know his voice and you know what he's asking of you, there's really only one way it can go, which is actually, if you know God, you've met the Father of all creation, and he's giving you a direction, which he's given us all through Jesus, then you've got to follow that direction.
Yeah.
And within that, there's also that message of mercy.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that I love Jonah, and the reason that I always pick Jonah whenever anybody says, who's your favourite Bible character, is because I feel like Jonah most days of my life. I'm not
A grumpy old man.
a really cantankerous, grumpy guy who gets eaten by wildlife. I think every day, once you know Jesus, is a day when you can choose to be a Jonah or a Jesus follower.
Yeah.
And so often I choose the Jonah way. And in my life and in my testimony, I've gone big on that. And I've tried to do the physical example of running away from God, went off running around the world, traveling, thinking that I could escape God. And it turns out God actually has a presence in every nation on earth, which is really annoying. But then actually, I don't know if you ever have this. Sometimes you're walking down the street and you feel compelled by God to say something to someone, or even just an act of kindness, an opportunity to step in and do something to help somebody, to pick up litter off the floor. You can tell I'm a primary school teacher. Help someone who's fallen over. Actually, these opportunities arise daily.
Yeah.
And I really do try
Yeah.
a lot of the time to follow God's way, but sometimes I'm too busy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know better. And sometimes, actually, the way I would do this, God, is a bit better than your way, so let me do it my way.
Yeah.
And I do fall into the trap of allowing my own ideas overtake the will of God who made me and everything that I can see.
Yeah.
It's a very arrogant state of being, but
Yeah.
it's something that I suspect a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that, actually, because the flip side is, in what you say, so the choice of we can be disobedient and do our own way, be our own God,
Yeah.
and think that we know best, right? So there's an arrogance to that.
Yeah.
Or we can follow God, but there's also a little bit of like a caveat in there, because you can follow God and actually not have a good attitude about that as well.
Yeah.
And that's not, I mean, at least you're being obedient,
Yeah.
I guess, but you can still, that's the real challenge, isn't it? That God has said something, so you go, okay, I'm gonna be obedient and follow God on that, but
Yeah.
actually I'm gonna have an attitude that stinks, like Jonah,
Yes,
about
yeah.
it. I'm gonna have an attitude that stinks, which means, am I really being obedient
Yeah.
for my whole holistic self, I guess,
Yeah.
isn't it? So it's not just about necessarily doing what God has led you to do or guided you to do or told you to do. It's the manner in which you do that.
Absolutely.
Because Jonah, even though eventually he did go to Nineveh and he did what God asked, he had a pants attitude about it, didn't
He
he?
did, yeah.
And then it still came back to bite him in the bum with sunburn and all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff,
Yeah.
wasn't
Well,
it?
yeah.
So it's interesting, isn't it? Because actually, yes, we are called to be obedient, but there's also the heart that goes behind your obedience,
Yeah.
which is, that's really hard, isn't it?
That's really hard, and that is a long process.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I think that's where the mercy message comes into it,
Yeah.
because we are all broken, we are all floundering, we are all faulty, and God knows that.
Yeah.
And so there is that grace within within each day that we're not expected to be the finished article. But I'm so glad you highlighted there actually about the attitude. Again, just going, being a teacher's great. You get loads of material for thinking here. So, if you're dealing with a situation on the playground, for example,
Yeah.
and there's two children, and they're clearly both in the wrong, and you're trying to have this restorative conversation with them about, how are we going to move on from here, and you can fall into the trap of them looking at each other, sorry, and you're like, they clearly don't mean it, absolutely not sorry at all. They wish they'd actually hit them harder. And so it then comes down to that conversation of, do you know what, we shouldn't really be using the word sorry unless we mean it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe this is a conversation not for the moment. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll return to this at some point, because in the same way that those children need time to pause and reflect and think, I need time to grow in my
Yeah.
relationship with God to a point where I'm humble enough and brave enough
Yeah.
to acknowledge the mistakes I've made, or to accept that maybe God's plan is infinitely better than my own. It's a really complex life we live, isn't it?
It is.
It's
it
really
is.
complex, and yet so simple as well, because, when I talk about, I'm just aware I don't want to sound too religious in my language here. When we talk about following God, what I'm thinking of specifically is the simple commandment of Jesus to love God and to love people.
Yeah.
And actually, if I'm trying to soak myself in that daily and ensure that the decisions I make, the conversations I have, the thoughts I think, the actions I take are framed in the love for God and love for people, then I feel like maybe I'm moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is really hard, and it is complex, and we do have grace and mercy, and I love what you said, that actually God's not. So even in this conversation where actually it sounds like we've been set up for failure, because it's not only do you need to be obedient to God, you also have to do it with a really good heart.
Yeah.
But God knows how human we are. He is fully aware of our humanity, isn't he? And so he's not looking for perfection. He's just looking for us to grow and develop and progress. And so I think God is fully aware that actually, even when we follow him, we're not always going to have a great attitude. And he still loves us.
Yeah.
And he still sent Jesus to die for you, didn't he? And so all of that is still true, but it's about us developing ourselves and being reflective in that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And trying to learn. Like, I wonder what conversation Jonah was having with himself when he was getting sunburned. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Probably self-pity.
Yeah, probably. And then we don't hear anymore. The story ends, and that's that, isn't it?
You
So
just
I
end with this
wonder-
red man sat under a burnt leaf. You know, it's a really sad ending.
But I wonder where he got to, what conversation
Yeah.
followed. How did his relationship with God develop? Because I reckon he learned and saw and viewed God in a really unique way after that experience. Because God wasn't actually asking him to be perfect. He was just asking him to be obedient,
Yeah.
isn't it? And that's that choice to not do what I think is best, but to follow what God is asking me to do, isn't
Definitely.
it? Which sounds so easy, but we have our own complex brains and ideas.
Yeah.
So doesn't feel that straightforward, is it?
No.
So, okay, go on. Were you going to say something?
Always. I'm always talking. No, I was going to move on to
Yeah,
do
go on. Yes,
time for
yes,
me to waffle
yeah.
on. I was thinking actually there is so as well as the very personal individual challenge of Jonah, I think there is a corporate, I don't like that word corporate, it makes you think of like a business, but
Yeah.
corporate as in the body,
Yes.
the body of the church. There's a warning to the body of the church there as well, I think. The book of Jonah, I think, is a precursor. It's a sign of what's to come, in that God wanted relationship with all people.
Yeah.
When Jesus came to earth, he wanted to have relationship with all people. He touched the lepers. He sat and broke the cultural norms by sitting with women who'd been cast out.
Yeah.
He challenged the religious leaders, the great and the good. He talked about finance in a way that was really uncomfortable for people.
Yeah.
And so the book of Jonah is kind of a foretaste of, actually, God doesn't want to speak to a narrow group of people. He wants his love to be widespread,
Yeah.
even amongst those people who make you uncomfortable. And I remember a few years back, my wife Sarah and I, we were at Spring Harvest in France, and there was this amazing couple doing a talk, and they said the vision of their church was that until they felt uncomfortable leaving their handbag in the pew, their church did not reflect the heart of God. I was like, what? And by that they were meaning, we should have people in our church who make us feel uncomfortable,
Yeah.
who are walking the path of the Ninevites,
Yeah.
the ones who are broken, the ones
Yeah.
who have no background
Yeah.
in church, who don't know God,
Yeah.
and yet come as they are before the King of Kings with all their damage and all of their honesty
Yeah.
and all of their potential. And they say, here I am. And that's what Nineveh represents for me,
Yeah.
is the many, many, many people on our island, in the British Isles, across the globe, who still don't know Jesus. And Jonah reflects for me at times the danger we can fall into of just looking inwards
Yeah.
and thinking about ourselves and what makes us comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I do think there's a bit of an uncomfortable challenge for the body of believers, the church, that actually we've got to accept the fact that the safest people, the people who make you feel happy and lovely, are probably not the people God's sending you to. He wants you to reach them as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, we need to
Yeah.
get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
is uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Which also means no matter who you are, what you've done in your life, where you've been,
Yeah.
God's still interested in you.
Yeah.
God still loves you. Even if you're thinking, well, actually, I'm too damaged, I'm too broken, I've done this in my life. Emma, if only you knew
Yeah.
the things I had done,
Yeah.
if only you knew what Nineveh was like.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it was an atrocious place.
Yeah.
And actually, all the way through the Bible, we read about cities and places that have shocking behavior. Even to us in 2026, we would read about their behavior and think, oh. And God still God still gave them every opportunity to come to him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which means we're never too far.
Yeah.
Never too far gone, never too broken, never too lost, never too sinful
Yeah.
for God to say, I love you,
Yeah.
and to want you,
Yeah.
which is also really challenging, isn't
is.
it, in there? Okay, any other lessons from Jonah?
So I think there is the lesson of, so whilst we talk about mercy,
Yeah,
and mercy's there, we have to be careful that we don't live lives of, it's okay, God will forgive me.
yeah,
You know, that sense of knowingly going against God. And this is the issue I have with Jonah and why I love him, because was the whale not clear enough? Was the fish not clear enough?
yeah.
You know, that actually, you know, you've been saved from the depths of the ocean. Literally.
Yeah.
You've been spewed up.
It would have been so gross, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you've ever, I used to live down near the fish factory, and the smell from there, especially on the Thursday when they're boiling the lobsters, that was ripe. So imagine that inside a big fish. But actually, there is the call for us to be self-reflective. You talked about self-reflection a while ago. And I think as Christians, that is one of the best things. Well, as all people,
Yeah,
one of the best things we can be is self-reflective.
yeah,
Because the minute we start to reflect and the minute we start to invite God into that reflection process, we ask God to be the mirror that we are reflecting in, actually that process can begin. And so in a way I'm talking about something we've already talked about, but actually God wants to partner with us in our process
yeah,
of development. He wants to be the one that is shaping us and changing us. He wants to be like a father with their children. I mean, you know, we use God as an example as a father, which I think sometimes doesn't do him enough justice, because I am a father, and, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, I hope God's not a father like I am. I hope he's better than I am. But for your kids, your heart breaks when you see them make mistakes.
yeah,
And your heart breaks when you see them do things again and again and again. And it annoys you when they do the same thing again and again and again. And I find my voice going into this really increasingly stressed pitch when I'm saying, should you be doing that again? Because you see your children do the same mistakes again and again. And I think as Christians, we fall into that trap as well. So whilst we have God's grace, there is that challenge for us to be self-reflective, to try and avoid that pattern where we can, and to try and learn from those lessons, and to be then a part of bringing other people into that process. And therefore, our church should be heavy in discipleship.
yeah,
And it should be about growing together
yeah,
without judgment that breeds shame,
yep,
but with true perspective that brings growth.
yes,
If an outcome from challenge is shame, then it's maybe not been done right.
yeah,
But if an outcome from challenge is a desire to change and be different,
yeah,
and a knowledge that the person who's challenged you is going to be part of that journey with you, then that's a really good thing.
yeah,
You don't want somebody who says, by the way, you're a bad person, you've done da-da-da-da-da, sort it out, and they leave.
yeah,
We want to disciple in the way that says, do you know what, Emma, you've got a really bad attitude in that area.
yeah,
Notice I use Emma as an example. You've got a really bad attitude in that area. I really feel like God's challenging you,
yeah,
but I want to be with you in that journey.
yeah, yeah,
Can I pray with you? Can I talk with you? Do you want to meet up? Do you want me to keep giving you examples of how bad attitude? You know? But do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
I do think it's a call for unity, because Jonah's a very lonely book.
yes.
I was thinking on the drive-in, most of the book is just Jonah and God. And of course there's interactions with the Ninevites and with the sailors, but actually it feels quite an isolating book.
Yeah,
And actually we're not called to be isolated.
no,
Even though our relationship with God is personal, we're called to be in communion together as well as in communion with God as individuals.
yeah, that's such a good point, because it was making me, when you were talking, making me think of the way that our society is. I don't think as a society we have a huge onus on self-reflection.
Yeah.
And we definitely don't have a big drive on humility. And when you go through self-reflection, there is a humility
Yeah.
that has to come with that. If you go through self-reflection, but actually there's not a humble heart, there's not a teachable heart there, then the reality is your self-reflection is wasted, really. And we don't have a society that that encourages us to do that, I don't think. And so it does take a lot. It does. Self-reflection is important, and there is this, this kind of, I don't know what, I don't want to keep using the word humility because that's not a good way to define it, but this opportunity to, especially if you're a believer, to come to God and say, actually, where am I wrong in this? Yeah. Where should I be different? Like, I've heard you say this, or this has happened. Am I right? Am I wrong? And there's a real humility about that. And even doing it with someone else, isn't it?
Yeah.
To go, actually, this situation has arisen. These are my feelings about it. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I justified in them? You might be justified, but your reaction wasn't.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and there's such a, I don't want to, humility about it, isn't it?
But you're right. You're right. It's not just the action; it's the reaction, isn't it? There is so much in it, and again, just that call for unity. You know, being part of a body, but also within that, surrounding yourself with people who you see God working in them. They don't have to be a finished article because no one is, but you want to be following people who you're seeing God move in. You want to be allowing yourself to be around people who are a bit different to you.
Yeah.
We had a conversation earlier, didn't we, about in the workplace, how there is strength in working alongside people who have different skills and perspectives, because otherwise everybody's saying, yep, following the same direction. It might be the wrong direction.
Yes.
You know, and for me, the most humbling experience of my life has been married, especially to my wife, who is, she will not hold back in telling me the truth, which is powerful. Yeah. And uncomfortable and annoying because, you know, I want to believe that I'm right all the time. And there is a sad truth here that I'm not.
Really?
I know.
No way. I've never experienced that.
It took a few years to recognise. Sarah may think I'm still on that journey. Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Excellent. Just before we jump to any other lessons, I'm aware someone has asked a question or a thought, and my team are trying to get it to me, but I can't. The writing was too small, so I couldn't read it. So we'll get that back up, and then, they're passing it to me. Excellent. Okay.
You've got staff. This is a high-budget operation. I'm impressed.
Well, I mean, really, they run the show. I'm just a face and a voice, really. Yeah. Okay, so a question for Sam Rotchell. What do you do if and when you do have a Jonah moment and have a bad attitude towards what God wants you to do or be? How should we then behave? I'll read you the full thing and then maybe we'll dissect it. If Jonah had behaved the right way straight away, would it still be a vital Bible story? Oh, there's some really good questions in there.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Okay, let's deal with the first bit then. So what do you do if and when, we'll go with when you do have a Jonah moment and have a bad attitude towards what God wants you to do or be, how should we then behave? If I leave that there, you can actually see it.
I mean, I'd love to give the nice fluffy answer would be, well, if you're doing what God wants, then it will all work out fine and you'll feel great at the end of it. But actually, Jonah shows us that that's not always the case. So sometimes we can do what God wants. And as you rightly highlighted, and our questioner has asked there, that if your attitude doesn't always align. So is it right to do what God's asked you? It is right. That process of attitude, I think, is then where you start to draw in other people. Yeah. So I think do what God's asking of you, do the right thing. If you've still got a really rubbish attitude, that's when you need to seek the support of somebody else. And I would have that honest conversation. I would find one of your safe people and say, I did what God wanted today, and actually I feel really bad about it. Will you spend time unpicking that with me? Yeah. Because I would suggest if your attitude is still poor, then maybe you're having a self-reflection block. Yeah. So maybe having somebody else journey that reflection with you. Yeah.
I'd also add, I think we should also tell God exactly what we think.
Yeah.
So
Go
even,
Psalms.
yeah,
Always.
yeah. Or I mean, I remember a time in my life when I really didn't like God. I was really struggling with him. I knew he was real without a shadow of a doubt. I knew he was in my life, but I was really fighting against what he was doing, what I could perceive him doing or not doing in some situations in my life, and being really angry at God at that. And I'm like, I'm still going to do what you're asking me to do, but actually I'm really fill in a blank word there about it. Like, I'm really irritated by this. I'm really angry. I'm really frustrated.
Yeah.
And one of the best things I ever did was I went for a walk by myself, and I remember shouting at God.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was out, I don't know what I was thinking, because I was outside on the street. And I literally out loud, like, wasn't having a conversation in my head. I just decided to tell God what I thought of him. That I thought he was selfish. I thought he was being weak and poor. And why are you not doing anything? You always tell me that you are always there for us. You're always active in your life. Well, heck, are you active in my life? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Being really angry and telling him that. Like, for me, it was a revelation. God is a big God. He can handle my criticism.
And he knows it
him.
anyway.
And he knows it anyway because
Yeah.
it's already in my head and in my heart.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he knows it anyway. And I just went, I mean, I'm a verbal processor anyway, but I just went full throttle on God. And I tell you what that did for my relationship with him, it opened a door I don't think I'd opened before.
Yeah.
Because I decided rather than being polite, nice, dutiful Emma, I just got real with him. So I did what he asked.
Yeah.
But I wasn't happy about it. So I just got real with him. And this door opened of, actually, my relationship with God is not always nice. It's not always rainbows and unicorns, like strolling through the long grass. It's hard and it's painful. And God wants real. So he also wants honest. So if you're angry or irritated or frustrated, I 100% agree. Bring people on this journey with you.
Yeah.
But I also think there is nothing like telling God exactly what you think.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's definitely been times in my life where I know I have sworn at God because I've just been really angry with him. I think he's okay with that because what he would rather is that we have that open, honest communication with him than to shut down and isolate ourselves.
Yeah.
Isolation from God is a very dangerous place to be in.
Yeah.
When you shut that door. So he would rather you have that open, honest, angry shouting match with him than to say nothing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
if you put that into an equivalent human experience in relationships, well, maybe it's just me, but there's nothing worse than knowing someone is mad at you and them not telling you, and it's an energy in the room.
Yes.
And you know, you're trying to look at them and they can't make eye contact with you, and you'd be like, how are you today? Fine. You know, and you think, I know you hate me right now. I
Yeah.
know you're mad at me. You might as well just say it.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, it's that watershed moment of actually the minute you're real,
Yeah.
you can figure out what the next step is. When it's held, what you're doing is you're freezing time in that moment, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're holding on to that offence or that pain or that.
Which breeds bitterness,
It does.
doesn't it?
It does. And it changes people. I even think it changes the way people look.
Yes.
You know, if you've been with somebody who holds on to bitterness, you start to see it in their body language,
I
in
would
their
agree,
face, or like say they can't look at you in the same way. And I agree. Be real with God and be real in our relationships with
I
one
think
another
so.
as well.
Yeah. Okay, so the second
Okay.
half of this question.
Great question.
Excellent questions. If Jonah had behaved the right way straight away, would it still be a vital Bible story?
Well, I'm cheering on the worm here. I'm assuming that without the whale and the boat, there's still a worm involved. So Jonah's gone, and he's done his thing, and he's told Nineveh. But I'm imagining that attitude is still there, that crossness. So maybe that worm eats that plant and he gets sunburnt. But no, probably not. I think if we're honest,
Yeah.
traditionally the reason it's been picked up as a story is more the fact that he was living inside a fish for 3 days.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those striking stories, which is why I'm focusing less on the fishy aspect here.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's more about the journey of Jonah as a person rather than the moment of the fish.
Yeah.
And I think there's something in that as well. I think sometimes when people come to a point where they've made a commitment or a willingness to step into God's presence and to try to get to know him or live their life for him, that moment can often be seen as this amazing wow moment, which it is.
Yep.
But actually, that is our moment.
Yeah.
And then it's, so what are you going to do with the rest of your life now? You know, it's that journey of faith. No matter how long or short your life is, your life after giving your life to Jesus, for most people, will be longer than that moment there. And so we have to almost step aside from the sensational moments and figure out, how do we live with God and walk with God in the mundane, the normal, the everyday, the workplace, with my friends, in my family. You know, how do I bring God into that and not just the big exciting moments like being eaten by a whale or giving my life to Jesus or, you know.
You know, the part of the story that I wonder, even if he had been obedient to God, whether it would still be in there, is the fact that he didn't think the people of Nineveh deserved God.
Yeah.
So even if he had responded and gone, okay, I'll just go do what you think, his heart was still, these people don't deserve God. He had cast a judgment that he was better than the people of Nineveh.
Yeah.
And he deserved a relationship with God, but the people in Nineveh were so bad, they didn't deserve a relationship with God, which I wonder if that was at the root of him running away anyway.
Yeah.
Of being at the root of his disobedience is these people don't deserve God because they're so bad.
Do you ever feel that? Do you ever feel like you're better than people?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
That's really bad, isn't it?
It is.
We just admitted
I know,
live.
on camera and everything. But you know what? I can definitely point at times in my life when I've looked at people, made a harsh judgment on appearance or a singular conversation, and thought less of them than who I am. And what a horrifically arrogant thought process.
Yeah.
What a horrifically arrogant heart I have. And I had this revelation, and now don't get me wrong, because I know I can be quite judgy. If I'm not careful, I can just, in my head, very rarely ever verbally, but in my head, I can cast judgment on people, and I have to work really hard at not allowing my brain to run on that track of judgment. And I remember, it wasn't that long ago, I was reflecting on this and thinking about it, and I came across something, and now I have it in my office as a stark reminder. You should love people like Jesus died for them. And I was like, you should love people like Jesus died for them, because in reality, he did.
Yeah.
So you need to love people like Jesus sacrificed his own life for that person that you're currently judging, that is beneath you, not good enough, probably doesn't deserve God. I mean, look at them. You know, when you're doing all of that cycle of conversation, Jesus died for them.
Yeah.
So you should love them like Jesus died for them.
Ouch.
Yeah.
It's painful.
And I think that's what Jonah did.
Yeah.
And that's what led to his disobedience,
Yeah.
the heart and the arrogance. So even if he was obedient immediately, his heart was still the same.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with you. I don't think it would necessarily be a vital Bible story, but I think it could have been.
Yeah.
Because there's still this really big question mark over the condition of his heart and the arrogance and the self-God he has created himself to be, which is, I think there's definitely a lesson in there for me to not, it's that self-inflation, that self-infatuation, isn't it, of I am better because, and I don't think very few people would outright say that, I'm better than you, But we do it in the way that we think and the way that we behave,
Yeah.
where we belittle people through actions and words, isn't it? But love
Yeah.
them like Jesus died for them.
Makes me think of, in a little segue here, in American movies that are in high school,
Yeah.
and the classic image is of the bully is not actually like the big strong one. They're like the little weedy one, but behind them there's always stood these two big bullies.
Yep.
And they have this confidence and this arrogance to walk through the halls because they've got these big guys behind them. I think in a weird way, as Christians, we can fall into that trap. And maybe Jonah was the same. He's like, well, I've got God at my back.
Yeah.
So I can walk through walls and I can do this and I can. But the minute you think, oh, he's not just got my back, he's got their back as well. Yeah, that's quite a sobering thought, actually.
It is, and it is true. When you're a believer, when you're a disciple of Jesus, you do have God on your back in a really good way and in a really powerful way. So can you do X, Y, and Z? Can you be a part of things? Absolutely. But the reality is, and the humility is, you can be a part of the amazing things God has in store, not because of you, but because of him.
Yeah.
And that's where our humility comes in, isn't it?
Yeah.
That actually, so even when you read about the miracles that people saw and were a part of in the Bible, it's God's power at work. It's not human power. It's not a thing.
No.
Like it's God at work. So even when we do see God show up in miraculous ways, even when we do see people's lives transformed and changed, I didn't do anything.
No.
Like, I might have had a really important conversation or I might have done something, but it's God at work through me.
Yeah.
It's not my humanity that does that. It's the Holy Spirit in me that does that.
Yeah, there's a little humility alarm going off there, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's true. And you will have seen, and I've seen people who, and I'll have been guilty of it as well, people who claim and own the power of God.
Yeah.
And history. I mean, history teaches us that, doesn't it? When people manipulate the power of God and create an earthly power based on God's name, that only ever leads to bad things.
Yeah.
Whereas actually that true humility, that true surrender, the true recognition of who God is and that it is God who will make the change, the transformation. It's God who will change the heart. It's God who will break the negative situation. The minute you give it to God and you stop expecting it to be you, controlling God's power, I think that's actually quite a freeing thought.
Yeah.
We obviously live by the sea here on the island, and I was walking with a friend the other day and I was saying, I love being by the sea. And they said, why? I said, because I feel so small. And because in my day-to-day life, you often have a million decisions to make, don't you? And people come to you and they'll ask you a question. You've got to give them a decision, whether it's your kids or whatever the situation. And if you're not careful, you can fall into the trap of thinking you're important and thinking, oh, I must be somebody because people are asking my opinion or people are asking me what to do here. Actually, being reminded of how small you are, I find comforting.
Yeah.
I find it really comforting because I think, I'm not the centre of the world.
No.
The sun, moon and stars do not orbit me.
No.
Actually, I am part of a communion of
Yeah.
God's people here on earth.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm special. Yes, God loves me.
Yeah.
But I'm not the most special.
No.
And I'm not the most important.
No.
And that's really refreshing
Yes.
to hear. And I think a lot of the way society has been structured in recent years is about creating self-orbit.
Yeah.
And you're the centre of your own gravitational pull. And if you don't want someone in your orbit, you can boot them out of it, and everyone will be attracted to you because you look and you act and you do. It's a load of rubbish. It's absolutely a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
We are so small, so insignificant, and yet so beautifully loved by
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
And how those two things can work alongside each other, I've no idea.
It's
one of
mind-blowing.
those, it's like
Yeah.
10 out of 10 equals 100. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And yet it does.
Yeah. It's one of those really beautiful mysteries of God,
Yeah.
isn't it? I think so much of or certainly when I've chatted with people or I've seen people kind of go through their relationship with God, often so much of their pain comes from not fully understanding and fully knowing what God is doing or who he is. And so I often talk about people that I have the real privilege of discipling or working with. I always say to them, you need to find joy in not knowing everything about God. You need to find joy in the mystery of God.
Yes.
And that's one of those things, isn't it? And find the joy and the significance in being an insignificant, small part of the most important story in history. God's story in history, and you as this small, insignificant part is so significant to God that he knows you, he knows your name, he knows the number of hairs on your head, he created you and formed you in your mother's womb. So yes, we are small and this teeny tiny piece in the story, but we are a vital piece in the story. So it's not about inflating yourself above anyone else, it's being aware that you are this vital part, but no more vital than anyone else in this huge, grand story of God saving the world and bringing people back to himself.
Absolutely.
And that is, sobering, humbling, and so wonderful. God knows my name.
Yeah.
He knows my name. And that is true of every person who has ever lived.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a really good memory.
Yes, he does.
Doesn't he?
I just want to give a little shout out actually to I've never met him, but he's a educational thinker and head teacher down in London, and I was really inspired a few years ago. He was doing some really exciting work, and the school I was in at the time, we looked at what he was doing and we wanted to really draw on the values of what he was doing, and he came up with this line which he was evidencing through the way that their schools functioned, which was, we want to help children to meet the world and not be the centre of it. And it was all about, we want to build aspiration and we want to build passion and opportunity and give them all the tools they need to live the life that they could have, but within that to recognise that they're not the centre of the world. And I thought,
Oh, wow.
and when I heard that, and I don't know if he's a Christian, he may well be a Christian, but it immediately struck a real spiritual resonance with me, because I thought that's the journey of being a Jesus follower.
Yeah.
Is we want to meet with the living God, but not expect that living God to see us as the centre of the world. We want to recognise that we have an important part to play, but we're not the most important piece, and just that humility that comes with that. But that's a journey. That's not something you learn overnight.
No, absolutely not. It's a lifelong journey, actually, because you'll take 5 steps forward and then something will go on and you'll be 10 steps backwards again, and you'll do that kind of journey, isn't it? Anything else you want to say about Jonah? We've covered so much ground.
We have, actually. I'm starting to worry that everyone's asleep now who may be watching. No, I just feel, maybe people who are listening to this conversation, I would invite them to go and sit down and read Jonah in full.
Yep.
Because it is short. It is only a short book. Don't get stuck on the whale bit. Do the full journey. Go right to the end, even to the confusing finish. And just based on the conversation we've had, I wonder if people have any other thoughts that crop up or other experiences, because I think sometimes there's a richness in going back over a short passage of scripture several times, because every time you do, there's a word or a phrase or a life lesson, something that's a little bit different. And if there's anyone listening, maybe for the first time, who's got no faith background at all, Jonah's dead easy to find. You can just Google it online, you can read it there, and it won't take you long, and you can get it in versions that are very reader-friendly.
Yeah.
But just read it as a full story, and then read it again and place yourself, instead of Jonah, put your name, and see what that does to the story, see what that does to your interaction with God.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that sparks any any self-reflection for anybody this week, because I'm going to go back and read it in the coming week and try and ground myself and humble myself and
Okay, you've kind of touched on it there, but one final question for you then. If someone is listening and they haven't yet chosen to be in a relationship with God, so we've had a really lengthy conversation about Christians, really.
Too lengthy. Too lengthy.
No, it's good. About Christians and living that life as a believer. But if someone is listening and thinking, well, I haven't actually made that choice yet, like I'm not there. If you could speak directly to them, people that haven't yet, they're on that journey, but haven't yet chosen to become a follower of God, what would you say to them? Why does our conversation matter? What do you want to say to those people?
Oh my goodness. That's a really hard question.
Sorry.
No, but it's a great question. I would want to say to you that you simultaneously have infinite value, and yet you are also a very small part of the world in which you live. And I say that not to make you feel small and not to make you feel worthless, but to relieve from you the pressure you may be feeling that you yourself have got to find the answers to everything. You know, we've talked about Jonah there, and Jonah was a man who knew God. As far as we know, he knew God and he was in relationship with God, and yet he wrestled and wrestled and wrestled. So remove the pressure from yourself if you're thinking, I can't get to know God, because whatever barriers you think you are putting up, those barriers are not strong enough, they're not high enough, they're not wide enough to stop you being able to interact with and to meet with the living God. And I can't promise what that meeting with God would look like, what it would feel like. But I do know that God's heart and intent is to meet with every single person. And so there is no question mark over whether God will listen. He will listen. There is no question mark over whether he wants to interact with you. He does. The question marks come around what day-to-day life looks like and what parts of you may be shaped and formed in that relationship with God. But does he love you? Yes, he does. Does he know you? Yes, he does. Does he understand the pain and the hurt that you carry? Absolutely. Does it break his heart? It truly does. So there's nothing that you're holding inside that he doesn't know already. But in the way that you spoke earlier about just being real and honest with God, you might as well say it, express it. Even if your first interaction with God is a slightly vibrant conversation, I would go for it. Better to be in that conversation than out of it. Yeah. And then start seeking other people who can walk alongside you in that. And if you don't know what that looks like, then I would suggest contacting through Sunday Live would be a really good way to have some signposting from the team here in where you might find somebody in your local area who might journey with you.
Wonderful.
That was a bit waffly.
No, it was good. It was good. And I said final question, but I've just been handed some questions. So if you're good, we're running long, but if you're good, we'll continue and answer this question.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so the question...
I did keep looking around thinking there might be a clock somewhere and we'll have been talking for 10 minutes and it's been turned off.
No, we've been talking for considerably longer than 10 minutes.
Oh, I thought, okay. Right.
We're almost an hour.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it goes quick, doesn't it? Okay,
It does.
So what is God doing in your life right now? What is your current challenge or learning moment?
Okay, God is... Oh, it's interesting. I was talking with some of the team here, all of whom I have known for many years in very different contexts. And Sarah and I returning to the island and coming back to a spiritual home could have been a very safe, almost like putting on old slippers, which in some ways it has been.
Yep.
But actually it's also been quite a painful process, which is really good. Let me explain. I think when you put yourself into God's hands and when you say, I'm going to go where you ask me to go, Nineveh, for example. I'm not saying the Isle of Man's Nineveh, it's quite a nice place. But when you go where God is sending you, there is always learning. and there is always growth.
Yep.
And I really truly believe, I know it's the kind of thing you see on a fridge magnet or on a quote or a Live, Laugh, Love poster or something, but actually, the process of growing is always going to be painful, but you learn from the pain and you learn from the challenge and you learn from the obstacles that come with it. And so for Sarah and I and our family, returning to a place that we knew so well and that we love with all our hearts, but we're very different people, and life has changed, and we've grown and we've experienced pains and joys. We've come back with loads more children than we're left with. We've had to recognise that life can't go back to where it was. It has to move forward. And it can move forward with some of those people and experiences that we journeyed with, but it has to be different, and you have to grow and change. You've got to grow up. And so what God's doing in our life is he's blessing us with the joy of returning to somewhere that we love, whilst making it infinitely more challenging than it was last time. And I love that.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. Should we finish there? Should we finish there?
We can finish there.
We should finish there. Unless
Sorry,
there's any more
everybody.
questions. No. Unless there's any more questions coming our way. No, the team wave. Okay, thank
Say
you.
mercy, give up, stop.
Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Sunday Live. Thank you for Sam for sharing with us this evening,
Thanks for
sharing
having
about
me.
Jonah. I'll wrap this up reasonably quickly because I know we've run long. We do have our Sunday Live pack. So it has a Bible and then a 30-day practical introduction to reading the Bible, and then just a pack with information about us as a church. Whether you are a Christian, whether you are exploring faith, whether you are really new to the journey, wherever you sit, if this would bless you and help you, then we would love to gift you one. There would be no strings attached to this whatsoever. We're not going to get in contact with you. We're not going to hound you to come to church. This is just a blessing for you. So you can text us on that number, 07624 566 261 is the number, and we will find a way to get this to you no matter where you are. So if this would help you, get in touch, and we will find a way to give that to you. We'll be back on the 1st of March. You can join us here on our YouTube channel, BBC IOM, at 7:30 p.m. We hope you have a great week, a great month, and I look forward to seeing you on the 1st of March here on Sunday Live. Good night and God bless. I looked at the clock and we had been going for like 10, 15 minutes, and then the next time